So this afternoon we have Crystal Bomberry with us. Crystal is IDHC's diabetes wellness worker from the West region. Crystal is a Mohawk woman, Turtle Clan from the 6 nations of the Grand River Territory, and she's been with IDHC since 2009. Crystal is a wealth of knowledge, and we love to have her with us. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will turn things over to you, Crystal.
Nyalagoa, Jessica, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction once again. I'm really happy to be here today to share with all of you, and I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join me today to talk about this most important subject. I'm really, really passionate about exercise, physical activity, just the concept of mindful movement. So I think that there's a lot in this presentation that you're going to get today, and I just want to take a moment to introduce myself. I want to say Scano Swagwego. Hello, everyone. Crystal Nigaso, Oswegat, Logatengo, Ganyatan, Niwagishout, Ganyak Kyono, Niwakwenzo. And essentially, what I said in my language, which is Cayuga language, is that I am from 6 nations of the Grand River, and I am from the Mohawk Nation Turtle Clan. So thank you again for joining, everybody, and I really hope you enjoy this today. So I'm just going to start to share my screen here. The reason why I call this presentation Mindful Movement Matters is because I really feel there's a big need to make a shift in how we see this subject of exercise, this subject of physical activity. And there is a difference between those two terms. And I know that there's a lot of science behind the differences between those two terms, but I'm not going to get into all that. Okay, we know that physical activity is movement. We know that. We know that exercise is generally, relating to structured movements that are done with repetition and done with a certain type of format, right? So I don't know how many out there maybe, for example, go to the gym. You hop on a machine, you do a certain exercise for a certain number of repetitions, and then you do a certain number of those sets, like over again. So that's just one example of exercise. And I just want to make a quick disclaimer here that the information provided today is not a substitute for any type of medical advice or attention. You should always consult a healthcare professional if you have any medical conditions or concerns before beginning any new activities or before making changes to your existing routine. It is just really important that if you're dealing with a certain condition or limitations, that you get advice on that, because your safety is most important. It's really important not to just like jump right into new activity or new exercise without first finding out how it may impact you, and in particular, impact an existing condition or limitation. So I just want to start off by reflecting a little bit on our body. And I like to refer to the term body gratitude. I once heard a phrase which I really carry with me all the time now. And that phrase is, our body is our very first home. And it's so true, because everywhere we go, we're with our body. So our body is very spectacular, and it is really an amazing network of cells, organs, passageways, fluids. There's just so much, in all the muscles and all the bones. And when you really take a step back and look at how miraculous your body really is, and how it is, essentially taking you everywhere in this physical world, we really need to be extremely grateful for our body. And no matter what our body is like, no matter what our body looks like, no matter what limitations we may be faced with, we really have to be practicing gratitude on a daily basis for that. And I heard an elder say on several occasions, more than one elder in my years of this work, is that our bodies are loaned to us from the Creator for this journey on earth. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to remember as we go about our day, right? As we go about our day, and as soon as we wake up in the morning, to give thanks for that. So we're gifted with a vast variety of movement abilities. And again, we're each individual, we're all different. And the wonderful thing is that no matter how unique we are, there's something that is suitable for all of us. So I really truly believe that knowledge and awareness is power. And I wanted to just very quickly review some of the health risks of the sedentary lifestyle. And I know I've heard things before in the past, oh, that's negative, that's to put fear into people, and it's not. We have to be aware of the potential consequences of our choices or our lack of choices. And particularly in this area of, health promotion, diabetes prevention, good diabetes management, we have to be very forthright with information, and we have to make sure that everybody is aware. So I would like to emphasize that any amount of exercise is better than none at all. So when people get discouraged about, not being on a structured routine, not achieving their expectations, those kinds of things, I always try to celebrate the small victories. So a 5 or a 10 or a 15-minute walk is a great accomplishment, and we should really give ourselves a lot of credit for that. But here I just wanted to briefly review some of the potential, concerns or health risks that come with a sedentary lifestyle. So heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, stroke, depression, colon cancer, premature death. These are just some of the things that, can be seen down the road if we don't take care of our bodies. And of course, exercise is only one component of taking care of ourselves, right? It's not just the exercise. It's also what we're putting into our body. It's also the management of stress and ensuring that we're taking a good look at all those areas of our being, the emotion, the mental, the spirit, just as important as the physical. And, in all the years of doing my work, 15 years of being in diabetes prevention and health promotion, I have come to see that, there's no doubt that it is the interconnectedness of all of those things that really lead to that manifestation of our physical health, whatever that may be. So just briefly, again, overall, I think everybody's very familiar with the physical activity benefits, but it's no secret that, being more active leads to a greater quality of life. I've, again, numerous people who've expressed just feeling better overall, better confidence, feeling a greater energy level, feeling more motivated, more inspired, feeling like they're in a better mood, improved sleep habits. It definitely helps to prevent or delay type 2 diabetes or other health conditions. And when I say delay, it's because, I've also come across people who have said, I've exercised regularly for the majority of my life. I've eaten well, and I still developed type 2 diabetes. So we know that there are no guarantees, but we know that the more things that we can do in a preventative and proactive way, we play a much greater role in reducing the risk of these things. It can help with weight loss. It does help with weight loss, especially when it's paired with healthy eating. And I shouldn't say that conclusively because, again, if there are genetic concerns and whatnot, that can be a factor, and that can present a great challenge to losing weight. So that's obviously going to require more intervention, more specialists and things like that. It strengthens the various systems of the body. And what I mean by that is, the heart, the lungs, the muscles, the skeleton, and then of course, with that enhanced circulation of the blood, that greater circulation of oxygen, we have the greater capability to heal. And that's definitely a huge thing for someone that's living with diabetes and trying to manage in a good way. So as I said before, it increases self-esteem and reduces stress as well. One great thing about it is that it also promotes body awareness. So as you start to exercise and engage muscles through specific movements and specific exercises, you start to become more informed about your body and how it works and the ways that the joints work and specific exercises for targeting specific muscles. So it's really great in that sense. It helps us to improve our mental focus, and also with that level of awareness, we also have to ensure that we're breathing properly during exercise. So that goes for cardio activity, strength activity, and of course, if you're doing yoga, for example, in which breath is the foundation of yoga. So steady breathing is another way to cultivate the ability to concentrate, right? To focus on the breath and to make sure that we're getting that steady exchange. And yoga specifically is a non-impact yet weight-bearing exercise. It's very therapeutic. And again, it benefits all systems of the body. And I like to really emphasize here not just in terms of the muscular engagement and the fact that it's weight bearing, so it helps with bone density, not just with regards to those things, but the nervous system, which of course, when we're focused on the breath, in particular, the exhale component of the breath, which induces relaxation, then you can see how yoga is so fundamental to our ability to develop, that ability to concentrate and that ability to relax. So it's a fundamental part of a yoga practice. And definitely for me as a teacher and as a practitioner, it's spilled over and rippled into all the other areas of my life, which I'm so thankful for. Walking is very much underrated. And again, I can't say how many times I've heard people express their disappointment with, oh, I can't get committed to a workout routine. I can't seem to find my motivation. And they struggle with that. And it's hard to see that repetitive cycle of disappointment, negative self-talk, criticism. But if you really struggle with, finding a steady workout routine, just know that walking is extremely impactful. We live in a very fitness crazed world where there's just so much emphasis on competition and performance and, how much or how long can we go and all these different concepts that, in my opinion and in the reality that we're living in, it's not important. It is not important. And I can say that with, confidence, because what I see and what I experience in my personal and work life is the need for us just to get moving. We need to get moving because just by, doing basic activities, we're bringing our energy requirements up from a basic rate of energy expenditure, right? We need to do more, and we need to get our bones working. We need to improve our range of motion. And every time we move, we're really, I like to say exercise is a key mechanism for moving energy within the body. So when you think about energy, that can include a lot of things, just general everyday stress, right? We all probably experience some degree of stress from day to day. General emotional, heightened emotions. It could be tension that's kind of building in certain areas of the body. So just something as simple as walking can help to move that along. And of course, this helps to strengthen our heart and lungs. It improves overall fitness, especially if we make gradual progression in a walking routine, right? If you start to maybe increase the length of time that you walk, or increase the intensity, or maybe even the frequency of the amounts of times that you walk each week. So it helps even with muscle tone, strength, and balance. It helps to improve sleep. It relieves stress. Getting out and walking and exercising in general helps to relieve stress. But imagine if you go walking on a nice trail where you're just really exposed to a lot of elements of nature. It's a really beautiful thing. And if we consciously breathe that in and consciously absorb that and soak it up, it's very therapeutic. And I believe there have been some types of studies pertaining to the impact of nature on our, holistic wellness. So even just 30 minutes daily of light to moderate intensity reduces risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and of course, as I said before, build gradually. So if you're currently very inactive, then just doing, setting your intention, making up your mind, saying, I'm stopping what I'm doing and going for a 5-minute walk. That is a wonderful start. Of course, more health benefits are gained from more activity, right? It's important to acknowledge that if you have very specific goals, such as weight loss, or for example, even blood sugar management, I don't know, just if very specific fitness or health goals, it's important to acknowledge that, there is somewhat of an equation. And generally speaking, if we want to gain more noticeable health benefits, such as weight loss, there should be more of a sustained approach or more structured approach to exercise. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I once had a lady that was at one of my presentations, and she said to me, she says, I've been walking for 30 minutes for a whole year every day, and nothing has changed for me. And she said something like, what am I doing wrong? Or why aren't I seeing any changes? And as I said before, it has to be mixed up. There has to be some type of variety. There has to be some type of wake-up call for the body to respond to more. If we want our body to respond in different ways or in more noticeable ways, then we have to do more. And sometimes that could just mean increasing the intensity, right? Changing it. And that's called, I'll talk a little bit about that later on, but it's called the FIT principle, which is frequency, intensity, time, and type. And this principle can really be applied primarily to cardiovascular activity and strength activity. Of course, we're going to talk about flexibility activity too, or stretching, but it doesn't really need to be applied to that because stretching is something that we can do daily within reason and just with a very gentle approach to maintaining a good range of motion, a good functional mobility. So, but when she had said that, I said, I asked her some questions. I said, have you been walking, for the most part, the same pace? And she said, yes. I said, have you been walking the same frequency, like the same amount of times per week? And she said, yes. And I asked her, how long have you been, well, she actually said that in her statement anyway, that she'd been doing 30 minutes each time. So with regards to frequency, intensity, and time, she had not changed anything. So although walking is a generally low impact activity, you can change any one of those variables to make it a high impact or like a high intensity activity. So it's really all about changing those variables to determine, how hard we want to go and how hard we're going to work. So keep that in mind when it comes to making specific gains or achieving specific goals, rather than just, a general everyday maintenance of movement or a general everyday maintenance of a certain activity, that there has to be some changes. So walking, of course, you can add the social aspect and walk with family, friends. You can create a walking club, and the social interaction adds a whole other dimension with the fun and the increased gains for mental and emotional health. So that picture right there is a picture of my friend Mary. We hike, we go on, I would say about 6 really long hikes each year. We're both very active. We like to do our stuff on the side, like yoga and weight training and all this kind of stuff. But then we get together and do a really long hike, and usually there's a lot of hills and stuff like that. So we enjoy that. That's something that we specifically enjoy, right? So you got to find what you enjoy and go with that, really build on that. So the added health benefits of walking and or exercise for diabetes management, of course, stress reduction is important because stress contributes to increased glucose levels. So really taking a look at that is a key part of good diabetes management and just healthy living in general, right? Not just for people with diabetes, but for all of us. Stress is a huge factor, especially in the context of today's society, where it seems like the majority of people are in fight or flight mode, right? I guess it's called fight, flight, or freeze. And it's this, sort of attack or performance or aggression mode, whatever you want to call that, or retreat mode, just kind of like sometimes wanting to just run away from all the stuff that's going on, and then sometimes just not responding at all in that freeze mode. So it's not a good thing to be in that state for prolonged periods of time, because we know that prolonged chronic stress levels can lead to illness. It can lead to various health concerns. So at a very foundational level, and as I said, I have to go back to my experience as a person and as a worker, that it is critical to manage stress in a good way, because that is a factor, or stress levels is a factor in how we proceed, the choices that we're going to make going forward, whether or not we're going to do something, as I said before, proactive to combat that or to target that or counteract it. And so I just think at a fundamental level, that's why I'm so passionate about mindfulness and yoga practice, breathing exercises and deep relaxation, is because we have to bring our bodies into, we have to get ourselves used to relaxing again. And what I mean by that is true relaxation, right? It's a relaxation that doesn't involve really very much outside stimulation at all. So what I mean by that is not watching TV. So some people say, oh, I relax all evening, I watch TV. Well, that's cool because it's very, it's nice to sit there and do something that we enjoy. But in the true sense of relaxation, watching TV or being engaged in our screens isn't promoting relaxation response in our body. So it is really important that we really differentiate between downtime and relaxation. There's a difference. Exercise also has a direct impact on lowering the blood glucose levels because the muscles are pulling the glucose from the bloodstream. There's a possible reduction or discontinuance of insulin medication. And I've heard of that happening for a number of people. There's improved blood flow, which means increased circulation to the extremities. Of course, then this promotes healing, which decreases the risk for foot infections and things like that. There's a reduced risk of a number of complications. And it also helps to achieve or maintain a healthy body weight. And of course, if a person has lost, substantial amount of weight in a healthy way, this of course decreases the risk of other health concerns. So it really does promote an overall holistic wellness. And as I said before, it's not just about the physical, it's about the mental and emotional too. Exercise is an excellent way to really bring awareness to ourself, our whole self. If we're feeling a certain way, going out, as I said, taking a nice walk, going to the gym if that's something that you enjoy, doing a yoga session helps to really alleviate challenging emotions, helps us to put things into perspective, clear our mind, and just become really much more focused, which is nice. We can all relate to that feeling of feeling kind of disoriented or unfocused. So the three key components of exercise, the first one here that I have is endurance, which is known as cardiorespiratory exercise. This increases the heart rate, and so it strengthens the heart, the lungs, of course, the muscles, because the muscles are being used. I just like to be very, very technical. You can perform, cardio exercise 4 to 7 days a week. And flexibility, this is something that can be done every day. Keep in mind that the word flexibility is a little tricky because a lot of people think that they should achieve flexibility. Keep in mind our bodies are very uniquely built. We're not all meant to do the splits, for example. We're not all meant to be able to do some type of crazy back bend. So respect your body's limitations. And so what I like to say in place of flexibility is mobility, moving, moving the joints in a safe range of motion to achieve a healthy, to achieve and maintain a healthy range of motion. So this helps to relax and lengthen the muscles, and this can be done 4 to 7 days a week. So it can be done every day if you'd like, but again, don't overstretch. So this is something I learned in my yoga training. Is when I first went to my yoga training and became a yoga teacher, the impression that I got was I'm supposed to be aiming to get to a certain point in my range of motion, in my flexibility. That was a big mistake because I ended up sort of overstretching, and I won't get into too much detail, but I ended up actually starting to experience some pain in a certain part of my body. And then I realized I was pushing too hard. So just be gentle and work within your body's limitations, because the goal is that we maintain functional mobility on a daily basis so that we can enjoy basic everyday things for as long as we possibly can in this life. That's really what it's all about. Not to necessarily achieve any, unless you're a competitor of some kind, but in a general sense, we're not looking to achieve any certain fantastic, degree of flexibility. And then strength, which is resistance exercise. So this helps to strengthen the muscles. And of course, anytime we're doing weight-bearing activity, we're also strengthening the bones and improving bone density. And this helps us to improve our posture. It helps in the prevention of diseases like osteoporosis. So the muscles work against some type of resistance. And that could be just your body weight, or it can be various forms of resistance like weights, dumbbells, tubing, cables, medicine balls, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of options out there in terms of resistance work. And I can't say enough how important it is to engage some type of resistance strength work, because it is really, really good for those that are trying to lose weight, because it raises the basal metabolic rate, which means you're burning more energy or more calories even at rest. So even after the workout is done, that energy is, you're still using energy. So that's why it's such a key component in weight loss. But in general, as I said, it's strengthening the body, and we need to keep our body strong so that we can, as I said, go about the world and go about our daily responsibilities and have a decreased risk for injury or challenges. So these should be done 2 to 4 days per week. And of course, if you're actually doing, a weight training routine, and you particularly focus on a specific muscle in a day, and you kind of train that muscle pretty hard, you want to have 48 hours of rest before doing that again, before going at that muscle again. So again, I just want to mention any amount or type of exercise promotes good blood flow, which is vital for transporting oxygen, water, and nutrients to the body cells, extremities, and vital organs. So if you ever question, the need for exercise, believe it when I say it's amazing. And the benefits are, we just can't brag about the benefits enough when it comes to exercise. So some examples here of endurance could be brisk walking. Remember, I mentioned the lady who said she'd been walking the same every day. So she just got stuck in a routine, and we do that. It's with very good intention. But if we get stuck in the same routine every single day, we'll stop seeing changes. And I think that pretty much goes for anything, right? Not just exercise. But brisk walking and making sure that we work with those variables of, frequency, intensity, and time. Running, bicycling, swimming, elliptical, stair climber, aerobics classes, fitness classes. And I just want to mention here that we do have a low impact fitness DVD that was created quite some time ago, but it includes one of our elders at the time who's sadly no longer with us, and a few other people of different ages. So there was different age groups in this video, and it was low impact. But the key with it is that you could, as I said, change any of those variables, and particularly the intensity. If something's low impact, well, then you can make your movements a lot more intense so that it suits your fitness level. Flexibility, again, at least 10 minutes total, at least 10 minutes of gentle stretching of each muscle group from the neck down. And you can hold each stretch for 10 to 30 seconds. And we also have, for this one, a Sweetgrass Yoga DVD for stretching and mindful movement. It's really good. It has 2 15-minute sessions on the DVD. One's a little more relaxing, one's a little bit more invigorating. But again, they're both, sort of focused on that whole body awareness and, of course, lengthening. We're lengthening the muscles, which is important, and you can consider that to be stretching, but we're also engaging the muscles. So in yoga, not only is that stretching aspect achieved, but also the muscular engagement. So it's a balance. It's a balance of relaxation and stimulation, lengthening and strengthening. And that's something to keep in mind about yoga if you're looking for something that's very well-rounded. And as I said, non-impact, but still therapeutic. Strength, resistance exercises. So I have some examples coming up on the next slide. And as I said, you can use just your body weight, or you can add any number of, weighted materials to your routine. And on the bottom, I listed a resource here on YouTube. I actually have a video series called the Agaron Exercise Video Series. And it contains 17 videos at the moment. It's supposed to have 21. I haven't gotten around to the last 4, but if you're looking for some beginner sort of videos to start to do a little bit of weight training, there's, for example, level 1 upper body, where I just use a set of dumbbells to do biceps, triceps, shoulders, chest, back, right? And there's a level 2 for that as well. And there's a level 3 as well. And then there's lower body level 1, lower body level 2, lower body level 3, and so on. And I also have, this is the same thing for abs and the same thing for just general upper body or core, right? So abs specific. Abs is a part of the core, but in that, the ab videos really specifically targeting the abdominals. So, and they are very beginner. Like the level 1 abdominal video is all seated in a chair, and there might be some parts standing up, but essentially the idea is not to require that you have to go down on the floor onto a yoga mat or onto an exercise mat and start doing crunches. So there's ways that we can engage all the different parts of our body without feeling like, you know, we have to do that, like go down onto the floor, especially if you feel limited or challenged with transitioning up and down from the floor. So it's, you know, keep that in mind as well for variation, right? Variation is important. There's not always one set way to do everything. So the time spent is relative to effort. And what I have here is just a little table. Minimal effort could be something like strolling or dusting. I mean, I honestly don't even know why. I got this from the Handbook for Canada's Physical Activity Guide to Healthy Active Living. It's a little bit older resource, but I mean, I think this is just to show you that the differences between the effort categories. So minimal effort is essentially just doing not much. Light effort would be like light walking, you know, something like volleyball, easy gardening, some light stretching. Moderate effort. Oh, and take notice of the time. Okay, the time frame. So light effort, you would want to try to be doing that type of activity for up to 60 minutes. Moderate effort, of course, the greater the effort, the less time. So this could be 30 to 60 minutes of brisk walking, biking, raking leaves, swimming, dancing. I don't know about you guys, but like if I'm working steadily at doing something like raking leaves, mopping, vacuuming, and I do these things consecutively, I can work up a little bit of a sweat. It depends on how hard you're working, right? If you're doing something at a very, very light intensity, very slow pace, then not as much exertion. Vigorous effort, 20 to 30 minutes. This would be something like aerobics, jogging, hockey, more high intensity things. And then of course there's maximum effort, which is very short spurts of energy, such as what a sprinter would do. Something that we should be aware of if you're just kind of getting into physical activity is the PAR-Q form. And you can find that on the internet. I believe this one here is a little bit outdated because I created this PowerPoint before I came across the newer form, but essentially they're very similar. So it really starts off with 7 key questions. It's really just a way to screen your ability or your readiness to get active or to engage in physical activity. You answer the 7 questions. If you answer yes to any of the 7 questions, you would talk to your doctor before becoming more active or before even having a fitness appraisal. Like you would want to do this before you walk into a gym after not having worked out for eons, right? And walking into the gym and asking a personal trainer to give you a fitness test. Because if they don't know your history and you haven't looked into your history and your current situation, that could be a bit of a risk. So you want to just make sure that you pay attention to that. And then, depending on how you answer these questions in your visit with the doctor, you may be able to start out with any activity you want and build up, or you may have some restrictions. So how much exercise? The first thing is just to start slowly. For example, if you're inactive, complete the PAR-Q form, visit with your doctor, and get your clearance, right? If there's no concerns, he's going to sign and give you his clearance and say you're good to go. 5 to 10 minutes of walking per day for 1 week or for your first few days is a fantastic start. As I said, walking is really underrated. So walking is a multi-joint activity. It's engaging many, many different muscles, especially if you are, as I said, trying to go at a little bit of an intensity that's greater than normal. Gradually build on your time spent and your intensity, but don't increase these things at the same time, because this could be too demanding. This is a general rule of thumb for everything. When I mention frequency, intensity, and time, don't increase those together at the same time. I mean, everybody is free to do what they want, but it's safer just to work within one variable, see how that goes. Current activity level and health status are key factors in exercise planning. So as I said, that's going to be, your PAR-Q could be a part of that. Or if you're given the clearance and you go and see, an exercise person or a trainer or something like that, they're going to ask you a lot of questions because they're going to want to know how much activity you've done, and this will help to make a plan for you. Work within your capabilities. This is huge. I go to the gym almost every day, and I see people lifting a weight that really compromises their form in a certain exercise. And I know everybody can, everybody's different from each other, but there's risk of injury when we just go way too hard, way too fast. So working within your capability is important because progressive overload is what you're looking at, especially when it comes to something like strength training. Just progressive in general is important in your approach, being progressive. Aim for at least 30 minutes of daily activity most days of the week. And if you're a beginner, gradually work your way up to that. So you might not start out at 30. You might start out at 5, 10, or 15, and then gradually work your way up. Remember, the general recommendation is 150 minutes of physical activity per week, which works out to be about 30 minutes per day for 5 days. Personally, I think that with a 24-hour day and the amount of screen time people are getting these days, and the increased health concerns that are going on, that we could, this is off the record, but that we could go for an hour if it's safe and if it's within our capability, right? If we're to that point, like for example, as I was mentioning earlier, even though I'm a fairly experienced exerciser, me and my friend, we like to we like to do long hikes. So once you develop your routine, once you start to progress safely, you'll be able to determine how long you want to spend. Maybe you're going to go above that general recommendation. So complete in one session, or you can break it up into blocks. So if you're looking at 30 minutes of activity per day and you're just starting out, break it up, break it in half, and maybe do 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. If you're looking at 60 minutes in a day, maybe 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch, and so on. Example strength exercises and the muscles they target. These are just a list of examples. So, squats, I think everybody's familiar with squats. It's very similar to sitting in a chair, making sure that, we're attentive to our body alignment. Can't really get into that. We don't have the time, unfortunately, but there's an opportunity in the future for us to do a session where we actually learn specific exercises for each muscle group of our body. So just for, information's sake, I've got exercises on this slide pertaining to the quadriceps, the hamstrings, and the glutes, the calf muscles, the outer thighs, which are known as the abductors, the glutes, the chest, the upper back, the lower back, the shoulders. There's different sections of the shoulder muscles, believe it or not, and the front of the upper arms, which is the biceps, and the triceps, and the abdominals. So there's a whole bunch of ways to engage all that. Up to 80% of premature heart disease and stroke could be prevented by healthier lifestyles. And this was something that I pulled out of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Living a sedentary lifestyle is as harmful as smoking, which I found to be a very fascinating statement. I believe that came out actually years ago already from Health Canada. So find an enjoyable exercise that suits you. Celebrate your body. Celebrate your body. I can't say this enough, and we're going to get into some of that coming up in the next couple of slides. I really believe that we have to start to change the way we see ourselves in order to give ourselves the same amount of time and energy and care and compassion that we give to all those other aspects of our lives, such as our work, such as the other people in our life, the people that we love and care for. We have to do that for ourselves. There's so much movement that can happen in a chair. And I want to emphasize that because sometimes it scares people a little bit. I understand if you're thinking like, oh, for whatever reason, can't be on your feet that long. Maybe, for some people living with diabetes might be dealing with neuropathy, and too much time on the feet can be an issue or a concern. So starting off with various activities, in a chair, and that's not as weight bearing, would be a great way to start out, to increase confidence, possibly even lose weight. Like, you just never know without that consistent dedication, right? And eventually, as I said before, progressing to other things. So there's a lot of things that can be done from a chair. And if you have those limitations, chair exercise or chair yoga can be a great option. So these are just some additional considerations for those living with diabetes. Consult with the healthcare team, making sure that we are always wearing comfy shoes and socks. Monitor blood glucose before, during, and after, because it can be impacted for a long time after exercise. Also, if blood glucose is too high, I believe there's a certain range where it would, if the blood glucose is at a certain height, then it's not even advised to proceed with exercise because it could cause the blood glucose to increase further. Always wear a medical or bracelet or necklace. And as I said, monitor before, during, and after. Drink lots of water before, during, and after. And always carry some form of fast-acting carbohydrate with you in case you need to treat a low blood glucose. If you're interested in lifting weights and using certain types of equipment, always just be sure to consult with a certified exercise specialist or somebody who's fairly experienced. Maybe they're not a specialist, but they've been, practicing for years and they're quite knowledgeable. It's good to challenge yourself safely, but please stop if you experience any type of pain, like muscle pain, chest pain, any real extreme discomfort that is just not normal, and lightheadedness, dizziness, those kinds of things. Do not exercise if you are ill or your diabetes management is unstable. And if you take insulin, it's best not to exercise when it is peaking because your blood glucose may drop during, right after, or many hours after the activity is finished. So, which is obviously an increased risk for hypoglycemic emergency. SMART goals. A lot of you probably already are familiar with the SMART acronym, which means specific, measurable, action plan, realistic, and time-based. And the action plan, I think, is a key component here, because these are the actual things you're going to do to achieve your goal, right? This is the doing part, because so many times we get ambitious, we get really excited, we find the spurt of motivation from whatever, maybe a movie or a commercial or somebody in our life, and we have all these great aspirations, but then we don't put anything into place to actually implement it. So implementing it is one thing, and then putting it into action is another, right? So there's a lot of stages, but specific means it's detailed. Measurable means that you can actually measure the outcome. For example, if it is a weight loss one, then after a certain period of time, you'll notice a difference. But I don't recommend. I've talked and worked with people who are trying to lose weight, and it's a real battle to want to stay motivated to exercise when that scale doesn't change fast enough. So I recommend going for internal, being motivated from the inside. How do you feel? Noticing the changes in energy levels, noticing that improvement in confidence. Those are the things that we need to focus on, because the other things will fall into place if we keep staying motivated from the inside. If our motivation is from the inside, we will stay committed and we will continue to be inspired. And as I said, action plan is the steps. Realistic means plan for what's within your power and your capability, right? If you've never been active before and you're just starting to become active, what's the likelihood of running a marathon within 3 months, right? That's very ambitious, and it takes a very progressive plan to get to that point. Time-based means set a date for when you want to achieve the goal by, because some goals will be short-term and some will be long-term. And if it's a very big, ambitious goal, there's going to be a whole bunch of little goals leading up to that big final outcome, right? So know the difference between a short-term goal and a long-term goal, and plan accordingly. So here's where we get on my most favorite subjects. The last couple slides here is really, I hope, is the biggest takeaway, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of theoretical knowledge. There's a lot of things that we can learn. There's a lot of information we can soak up, and we can know a lot of facts. But in reality, how we approach the subject of exercise for our individual self and for the people in our lives, it's really a big reflection on how we see it. How do we perceive it? How do we think about it? How do we see ourselves, and how do we think about ourselves? And so exercise is a wonderful way to increase your body awareness. When you engage in exercise, you can actually be very much mindful of your energy level, the sensations, your breathing rate, you know, the in and the out breath, and just very much soaking up that experience as a ritual, as a good ritual, something that brings you happiness or enjoyment. For example, walking, you can take notice of your footsteps, you know, the ground beneath your feet. What does it sound like? Is it soft? Is it mushy? Is it crunchy? Is it snow, right? The air around you, whether it's breezy or still, calm, and just all the surroundings, especially if you're going out into nature and you're kind of connecting with trees and certain trails and things like that. Breath awareness, as I said, focusing on the breath is a great way to start to focus in general, increase our ability to concentrate, which then of course is an absolutely awesome foundation for meditation practice. Decide and commit, carve out the time and don't let anything get in the way of that. You know, if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, I don't have the time, I just don't have the time, I would be on a vacation. In fact, I just got back from a vacation, but I'll gladly take another one. If I heard, you know, if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say that, my comeback is always, how much time do you spend watching TV or getting on social media or using some screen of some form in your life? And just by observation alone, no one even has to tell me, but just by observation alone, I already know that the majority of our population is engaged in a screen time that is not healthy. So if we decide and commit to carve out some time, we will be, you know, really on a good track. Be patient and be present. So that means be patient, take your time. When you're doing it, take your time, don't rush through it. I think about that all the time. I'm going to be here now, fully engulfed in what it is that I'm doing, fully engulfed in this exercise or this movement or this yoga session, because that is how we benefit. We only benefit if our intention is connected and linked to what we're doing. So we've all experienced being physically someplace, but mentally somewhere else. What good is it to exercise and go through the motions of this particular thing that we're doing if our mind is completely bogged down with, you know, things that are coming up 3 hours later or the next day or a week later? It's not helpful. It is not helpful. And particularly because that mindset isn't going to pull the benefits out of that activity that we're doing. And the activity that we're doing is essentially going to be disrupted by those various thought processes that we have going on. So the whole point to mindfulness and presence is to unite the body and mind, bring everything together and unite your intention with your action. And then of course, rest and sleep. This has really nothing to do with the actual concept of exercise, but it has everything to do with growth and development, transformation. How do we move through this world? And it's largely dependent on how we're feeling from day to day, and how we're feeling depends on the amount of rest that we've been able to get. So restful sleep, I highly recommend a brief relaxation practice before bed. Of course, as I said, this is included in a general yoga practice, but you can practice relaxation anywhere. It doesn't just have to be in yoga, but it is fundamental. It's pretty fundamental to yoga, but we need to understand it's fundamental to our daily life. It's fundamental to our daily functioning and definitely to our health and wellness. So get active with intention means be mindful of your safety at all times, explore your interests in the ways to enjoy moving, and then set your goals based on those interests if possible. Sometimes limited resources can be a factor and your goals will have to change. Simple. I mean, we can't have everything sometimes, right? Honestly, I would love to swim. I would love to swim all the time, but I don't live beside a pool. So unfortunately, swimming is not a part of my activity routine. Practice expressing daily gratitude for your body and its amazing functions that allow you to do many things for both survival and enjoyment. Build motivation from within, but see inspiration everywhere. What I mean by that is our self-esteem, our motivators, in order to be committed over the long term, they have to come from inside, okay? If we dig deep for that internal motivation, we will build our self-esteem. And that is going to be with us for all of our days, right? But if it's conditional to external things, then it's not going to last. It's going to be very temporary. So, and what I mean by see inspiration everywhere is be hopeful, be joyful in any opportunity you can, because it helps to build our motivation, helps to build our resilience and our willingness to just have an open mind. Recognize exercise as a key mechanism for moving energy along in your body. So when I say energy, I mean just general stress, emotions, tension, whatever it is that you feel is not really serving you in a good way, we can move that along. It doesn't mean ignore it. It doesn't mean push it down and suppress it. It means help it to move along. Acknowledge it, be with it, help it to move along so it doesn't sit and fester and build and create blockage. And this is how come I think high stress levels have been an indicator or risk factor for sickness, is because it's really amazing how, if you are not mindful of stressors in your life and how you react, and especially if you're not responding mindfully, but you're reacting hastily, you feel that. You feel it in your head, you feel it in your neck, you feel it in your shoulders, your chest, your back, your stomach. You feel it everywhere. So really be mindful of that. Use affirmations often to strengthen your sense of personal ownership over your health and wellness. And here are some examples. I just actually, made these up myself. You can make any number of affirmations up. I am grateful for my body and all abilities that I am blessed with. I am a sacred part of creation with a sacred duty to care for myself. I am open. I open myself up to moving mindfully every day. I embrace opportunity to improve my health and wellness in all ways I choose. Choose. That is a key word, to choose. I better myself in countless different ways, and I am powerful and capable. Just a closing thought here. We are more than a physical body that needs food, water, sleep, and exercise for survival. We must also channel our emotions in a healthy way for cleansing and renewal. We should use a good mind, and we need to nurture our spirit. Keep that inner fire alive and strong. Our mental, emotional, and spiritual health is strongly linked to our physical health and day-to-day sense of well-being and contentment. Seek balance on a daily basis and seek healing if needed. Remember the wholeness of your being. With that, I'd like to say, Nyamagoa, thank you very much, Chimigwich, for joining me today.